Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Ryan Peach. Ryan, how
Woo,
you
hey
doing, brother?
guys. Man, I'm so good. So good. So good. Cannot wait for this.
Awesome. So for those of you that don't know, obviously you're expecting maybe Tim to be here with me, but Ryan has gone through the activation method as a client, as a participant, as well as the Alpha Reset, and then he moved on into the Brotherhood, which we don't talk much about this show. So for those that haven't seen Ryan's video and heard his story, Ryan, give us, kind of a real quick summary of what your journey was like right before joining the activation method all the way through what you're up to now.
Sure. So I hope this will resonate with a lot of the guys. It was doing great in business, was feeling really good about how successful I was and how good everything was going, and wasn't really paying attention to the carnage going on behind me, right? Left my wife behind. We were really great roommates. Had two kids and found myself yelling and arguing and having a high standard that was unreachable for any human being, especially a little kid. And there was just so much distance with everybody in my life, including my real true self. And so I came to a place where, the success didn't matter. And I just felt like I wasn't whole. I didn't feel like I was succeeding in ways that I should be succeeding. And so I came to you guys, came to the Powerful Man, and I was just transformed. I was able to not only continue success in business, but succeeding in business in the way that I wanted to, not just committing the 80, 90 hours a week to business, but was able to focus on the things that I really loved and then move to a place that I really loved, build and continuing to build a relationship with my wife that I really love. My daughters and I have an amazing relationship. We play every single day, and their confidence is growing in a lot, and because mine is. I realized that I had never really had the opportunity to meet myself. And now that I have, I really like who I am, and it's amazing. Everybody else does now too. So it's amazing.
It's amazing how that happens. It was funny yesterday. You and I were talking back and forth via Voxer app, and your daughter ran up to you and was like, "Daddy, Daddy, I was riding the skateboard." And you're like, "Oh, it's awesome. Thank you so much for not hurting yourself." It was so sweet, the interaction.
Oh man, she's that way. Like before, that was something that really, hurt me a lot. Was she would make works of art for me, and she would bring them to me with I know this isn't good enough, but, and I just, that was one of the big like breakers for me. And now yesterday, I mean, I'm talking to you and paying half attention, and she's jumping on a skateboard. I'm like, oh my gosh. So
yeah, our kids definitely follow our suit, right? They follow our lead, just like in business or anything else, but our children are so important to us. Well, fast forward to today, right. Ryan, you went through the activation method, went to the Alpha Reset, had, obviously a total transformation in a great way. And then you decided to move up into the Brotherhood, and you've been in that program for almost a year. And then you raised your hand and said, "Hey, look, I want to do a little bit more. I want to get on the phone and help men that were in a situation like me." So fast forward today, you're one of the guys that's volunteered essentially originally to say, "Look, I'm happy to take some phone calls for these guys that are interested in finding out more information." So what I want to talk to you about in this episode, because I think our listeners will really enjoy this because it'll give a different perspective. But now that you've been, taking phone calls, so to speak, or getting on video chats with men all around the world who, these are all business owners. Well, I won't ruin this. Who are the guys that you're finding yourself talking to?
Sure. I find myself talking to myself a lot, right? I am connecting with business owners, and it's almost always the same story, right? Like I'm succeeding in business, or I was succeeding in business. But for whatever reason, my wife does not want to not just not want to have sex. She doesn't want to have a relationship with me, or she is leaving me. My kids are distant. My kids don't like me. And all of these men are saying a lot of what I was saying, which is, I thought if I made enough money, I thought if I made enough of a life financially for my family, that then I would be enough, or that then they would love me, or that then I would have fulfilled my duty as a husband and father. And what I'm finding is that is the complete opposite. And so these guys are coming to us just, I have succeeded in the way I wanted to succeed, and why do I still feel like a failure?
Yeah, it's amazing. So in The Powerful Man, we talk about one destination, two paths. And it's almost as, it's not these guys' fault or your fault or mine, previous me. I call it Doug 1.0. If we've been sold this bill of goods, right, is, you grow up, you get married, you have some kids, you work your butt off, you provide for your family, and everything's going to be great, right? And marriage is going to be easy.
Oh, it's gonna be so easy.
Yeah, marriage is so easy. Business is easy. But as long as you are a champion in business, then everybody's going to look up to you. Your family's, your wife's going to love you. She's going to have you're going to have passionate sex 2-3 times a day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We get sold this dream. And then oftentimes men, typically in their, mid 30s, 40s, 50s, they wake up and they look around. They're like, what the heck happened? I've been lied to the whole time.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you finding that the guys that you're talking to, they're obviously going through, are they in a particular industry, age gap? Give me a demographic of a typical guy that comes onto the calls with you.
So I'm seeing a lot of mid 30s to late 40s, even some early 50s. And they've all been married for, 5 years to 15 years. They all seem to have a couple of kids, or are really starting to have conversations about having kids. And I've talked to everybody from bankers to I talked to real estate. So I've talked to realtors, investors. I've talked with, oh my gosh, let's see. We have talked with construction workers, a guy that ran a lawn care company. I mean, it's a vast array of guys. And they all have this common theme of working way too much and not being present even when they're home.
Yeah.
And they just, they're like, I don't understand. I did all the right things. I followed the book that I was given, and I'm broken. I'm not there. I'm not there where I want to be at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that we, a lot of the men that coming through the program or come in, they've done maybe even Tony Robbins, they have a business coach, they've done marital counseling, they've tried all of these things. I know you've done a lot of this too before you go through. And it wasn't systemized in a way that speaks strictly to business owner men, male business owners. And they were left with one little nugget of the hustle train, so to speak, of, you just got to keep doing it, keep grinding it out. And they've tried so many things that they keep getting pushed back. So when you talk to these guys and you get on the phone with them, the guys that have tried everything, they've got to be skeptical, right? They've got to be like, hey, how the heck is this going to be the thing? What is your answer to that when you talk to them?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times they come to me and they say that we have tried counseling, right, or therapy, or we went to our pastor or whatever. And what I tell them is like, it sounds like you did a lot of talking. It sounds like you have just done a lot of communicating back and forth about where you're failing, and then you're addressing essentially the symptoms, right? Well, you're not talking. Talk more. Here's how you should talk. And I'm like, that's great. I'm like, but if you aren't getting yourself fixed, like it's all about fixing the relationship. It's all about being a better parent. I'm like, you're addressing symptoms, not the issue. And when you are looking for a long-term solution, you have to start with yourself. And these guys are like, oh, I'm not even taking time to look at myself. I'm too busy trying to be a good dad. I'm like, well, you can't be a good dad if you hate yourself, if you have horrible thoughts about yourself, if you feel like a failure when you wake up, that's going to come through in everything that you do.
Absolutely. And that's one of the amazing things is you've been on this journey, right? And all the guys, one of the things I love about the Powerful Man movement is men that have been through this transformational experience are almost like, oh my God, I've got to tell everybody and share this, because it's not talked about with guys. And, obviously you wanted to do a little bit more with the men. And in fact, you just got back recently from an alpha reset. Now, we don't tell everybody what happens at the alpha reset, only because it is an experiential program. But, what was it like seeing the guys from the start to the last day, which is Sunday, as you and I know? What was that experience like?
Man, to see these guys walk in and be timid, you can tell they walk in with this weight on, like they've learned a lot about themselves going through the activation method, but when they get there, there's still this weight on their shoulders about either not feeling enough or not being enough, or maybe this is a load of crap and it's not going to work. And day 3, like they walk in, I swear guys get taller. They change color.
Yeah.
Guys that are like timid, they've got this voice and they're like, give me some coffee. I'm like, who are you talking to like that? Don't tell me to get you some coffee. They just, everything about them is different. And that's the whole point, right? Like I'm not going to teach you just how to communicate better with your wife. Like we're going to help you become this person that just exudes this powerful, beautiful manliness. And, whenever you, like you say, you try to, you see people going through things, you want to tell them about it. And they're like, cool, walk me through it. I'm like, I can't walk you through it. You have to walk through it yourself. Like I can't talk you into this. Like you have to experience it in order to get the results.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I mean, I've obviously been to a lot of the alpha resets and the transformational experience. We know this cognitively, right? In our brains, we know logically that our thoughts become words and our words become things, and you can change. We've read studies that, stress can kill you, cause cancer, all kinds of things. However, transversely, you and this is your first one, I believe, right? Being in with not being a participant, is you get to see how men strip away years of BS, right? And things that they've thought about themselves or other people put upon them that they've been carrying around so they don't realize it's there, right? It's like when you get overweight, you don't realize you're carrying an extra 20 pounds until you lose it. And then someone hands you a 20-pound weight and they say, carry this. You're like, geez, it's a lot. So it's the same thing. And they change, and they literally change pigment. They do stand up straighter. They have physiological transformations, all for the positive, as they're going through, which is such an amazing thing to see in such a condensed period of time.
Yes. Yeah. And that's something that you see, which is what's so beautiful about the experience is, they are, we use the phrase a lot, like step to the line, right? And like they have all these invitations to make choices to become these powerful men that they are. And every time they make a choice to say yes, it's just like you see this layer of guilt or shame or failure just kind of fall off of them. And then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And by the end of it, I mean, it's, the guys are heading home and they're like, I walked in the door like I always walk in the door, but why did my wife jump in my arms? Why did my kids want to come and spend time with me? Like I feel amazing, but how do they see it? And I'm like, man, it's just coming off of you, dude. Like you are different. You're not trying to be different. You are different.
People can feel it, right? You can feel when someone's passionate about what they do. When they're passionate, I mean, it could be somebody who makes toothbrushes. If they're passionate about it, you want to be around them. You want to be in that energy. Now, when somebody, a powerful man, is passionate about who they are as a person, they've fallen in love with themselves. It is from the boardroom to the bedroom. It changes everything in their lives, and things get exponentially better.
Yes, I had a guy just text me yesterday. And so before the alpha reset, like I had talked to him before, but I got to meet him in person. He was like, my wife essentially couldn't wait for me to go on this trip so that she would have time away from me. Right. And so he texted me yesterday and he's like, oh, I'm up in Wisconsin. And my wife texts me out of the blue saying she can't wait for me to get home. Right. And this is like apart from one another. You know,
Yep.
he's like, what happened? I'm like, you happened, bro. Like, you happened. That's what's happening in your life is you. And he's just like, I love this. I love it. I cannot wait to share this with other people. This is the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life.
It's awesome. So one of the questions I got, gosh, it was yesterday or the day before, Ryan, and I'd love to hear your take on it as a participant who's gone through the program. Is someone said, look, what is the activation method? You guys don't tell anybody what it really is, right? And the alpha reset. So the activation method is roughly, and I say roughly because we do a lot more a lot of times, but it's an 8-week systematic training program that's done with a coach. And then on completion, you go to a 4-day, very intensive transformational retreat called the Alpha Reset. And a select few men who graduate that are given the opportunity to go into another next level, which is called the Brotherhood, which is what you're in right now. So for a guy listening to this right now, and I would be this guy in the past, I'm listening to it, I'm saying, this sounds great, but what the heck is it? How would you describe the activation method first, and then moving on without giving away any of the surprises that the guys get? I don't want to call them surprises, but you mentioned invitations. We like to say that a lot because we don't make anybody do anything. But how would you describe the activation method as someone who went through it?
Sure. So it is a systematic training process that you go through, and it helps you to see these areas in your life, these 5 areas of focus for you that essentially that make up your life, that make up who you are, the decisions that you make, the things that you do, the areas that you need to focus on. And through the activation method, you learn those areas exist, how to focus on those areas, when you're in those areas, what you need to be doing, how you need to be feeling, what decisions to make in those areas of your life, versus conversations you need to be having with your wife or your kids or whatever. But it's, here are the areas of your life, and it focuses a lot on getting you right in those areas, and then what to do in those areas. And so you really come through it on the other side being like, okay, I understand who I need to be in these areas of my life. And then based on who I need to be, who I get to be, what am I going to do based on that? And then when you go to the Alpha Reset, then it is a beautiful experience. Gosh, how do I even put this into words? It is one invitation after another to strip away a lot of the things that are holding you back from being who you already are. It's realizations in who you are, who you want to be. It's realizations in what has stopped you from getting there, and then invitations to remove those things from your life, or to step up and say, this is who I'm going to be from this point forward.
Love it. I feel the same way about it, and I think that's a great description for the guys. Now let's do a little role play here, because this is great having you on here as a participant of the program and as a product, right? I'm Ryan Peach 1.0, the old guy here. So I'm thinking about this. I'm talking to you now. You're volunteering to get on a phone call with me, and I'm like, oh, that sounds great, but I'm a business owner. I don't have the time to do this. What would you say now to him previously?
Sure. So what I would say to anybody, and that's a lot of the objections, right? Like, I don't have time. I don't have time. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, one road, 2 paths is a lot of what I tell these guys. I'm like, listen, how many years have you been going on this path of struggle and struggle? How much time have you invested in it not going right? And they'll say, oh, it's been 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I'm like, okay, so you were willing to invest at least 5 years into a way that doesn't work. I'm telling you just to give you a few weeks in a way that does work, and they're like, okay, so I'm like, so listen, you can continue down this path, which is exactly what happened to me, which is why I said yes to the Powerful Man. When I was talking to Tim the first time, it was as clear as day. to me. I mean, it was as vivid a picture in my mind. I was like, I'm standing at that crossroads in my life where I can go down this path and I know exactly where this leads. This leads to divorce. This leads to my kids not wanting to have a relationship with me. Like, it was clear to me. Or I can go down this path. I have no idea where this path is going to go. I hear that it could be different and it could be amazing, but I don't know. So I was like, but I know where this path goes and I don't want to go down that one. And so I took the path towards a possible, beautiful, successful, wonderful future. And I've ended up exactly where I thought I was going to be. So I think that's the question you have to ask yourself is what you're doing now and what you've done in the past got you to where you want to be? If it hasn't, then you've already invested that time in what doesn't work. Invest your time in something that might work going forward.
Yeah, and that's what I did as well. You know, it's kind of that whole, I think it was Albert Einstein that said, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result going through. And we all do it, right? We all, yes. It's human nature, and especially as alpha men, as achievers, we just think, well, I'll work it harder, right? I'll get up at 4 a.m, you know, or 3:30, you know, or I'll stay up late and, you know, work so I can spend more time with my kids, but yet you're detached. And all of these things come in as excuses. And we start to, which is an egoic response, find ways that we can't change. Because change is scary. Your body psychologically and anthropologically is designed to keep you exactly where you are, right? So you don't change because you're safe, you're alive. Change can equal a stress or a threat. And so your body says, your mind and your subconscious says, well, don't change because that's scary. Let's come up with some excuses. It's Thursday. We can't do changes on Thursday or whatever it is. Time and money are the two most in any situation, whether it be joining a powerful man group or doing anything else. People start coming up with excuses on time and money, and a version of that almost every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we look at this, Ryan, and you look at your journey and what you're doing, you know, and the service and legacy that you want to live, what would you say for men that are listening to this? Guys that are sitting on the fence right now, and it doesn't have to be the powerful man. I don't want to just sit here and say that's the only way to get there. It's just the way that's worked for us, right? And we're hundreds of other guys that come before us. So what would you give a guy? Give him 3 takeaways. And maybe it's not the guy listening. Maybe you could go back in time, or it's some kind of string theory, and you can talk to yourself before you made the decision. You were to sit Ryan on the couch, and, you know, maybe you crack a beer, maybe it's a water, I don't know. But you're having a conversation with him. What do you tell him?
I know that it's hard. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things, right, that they'll say like, oh, it's easy, just do this. No, like it is some of the hardest work that you're going to do is the work you do on yourself. So like, that's number one, is know that the work is hard, but anything that you've ever done in life that was valuable was hard, right? To get that degree, to start that business, to choose to get married, all of those things were hard. So when you see this decision, you're like, oh, I'm afraid that this is going to be really tough. That's part of the fun. Like, we as guys, like, we love to compete, to try and do hard. So like, don't allow it possibly being hard to stop you. Allow that to ignite you to go do it, to see the possibilities. So that's one. 2 is, has what you've been doing in the past worked? If it has, if your positive results in reading that book, going to therapy, doing the yoga, doing whatever communication technique that you're trying, if you feel like, yes, I'm getting the results, then keep doing it. But if not, then you've got to make a change. You've got to make a change, or you're just, like you just said, you're going to be in the same place that you were. The same place you are today is exactly where you'll be a year from now, except you'll have lost a year. And the last thing is, at some point in your life, you have to say yes to yourself. And I know as guys, that can be really, really hard. We want to sacrifice for our wives. We want to sacrifice for our kids. We want to sacrifice for our moms and dads and our coworkers and our employees. And that's all great. But at some point, you have to realize that saying yes to yourself is also saying yes to everyone else in your life. Because when you get right, everything else can get right. But if you never get right, I don't care what you do as far as sacrificing for other people, it's never going to be the right decision.
Ah, so true. You got to, and guys, you know this, you got to fill your cup. It could be one of the toughest things you do. And as Ryan said, we've never said this system is easy. It's not for the average guy, right? We say that all the time. This is not for the average guy because it's work and it's hard. This is not a quick system. It's a proven system that works every time, but it's not for the average person. So if you're open-minded and you're ready to take the step forward into your best life, that's the step you want to take.
Exactly. That's right. If you're looking for a quick fix, this isn't it. It was way faster than the last 7 years of failure. Right. But it wasn't like, hey, cool, we're gonna have an hour phone call and you're gonna have all of the problems solved. It was like, no, like there's steps, there's invitations to make difficult choices. But when you make those, when you get on the other side of those, the person that you feel like, the person that you realize that you are, no one can take that from me. No one can take that from you, Doug. Like I've done these things, and because I did those things, I am this amazing person. And that's the invitation that you get when you come with us, is you get the invitation to meet this amazing person who is you. And I got to be honest, like I really like me now.
Well, I like you too, and I know that everybody else that does as well. And then at the Brotherhood Retreat, you're always a star and everything else that we do. So, gentlemen, Ryan, I want to thank you for being here, and guys listening. You know, if anything of this resonates with you, and you wanted the opportunity to talk to, well, maybe possibly Ryan, go over to thealphareset.com. Yeah. We have some trainings from Tim right there. And if you choose to get onto a call to find out more information, Ryan's one of the guys that's raised his hand to step up to help men just like you take that next step, should it be the right one. Again, this is not for the average guy. This is for someone who's really looking at making some change in their life, and usually someone who's looking to make change, not only for themselves, but for their families, for their businesses, and for their communities. All right, guys, that's it for today, and we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.